So after deciding to take a little break the other day for being a bit burnt out, Emily Artful decides to drop her final video on CreepShow Art and pretty much exposes her, again, to everybody on how much of a piece of shit she is. And of course, I watched the whole video because it's super interesting and it's actually pretty well made. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go through all the best parts of the video to see just how bad CreepShow Art is. After all we've seen, there is still more that Emily has to say. First things first, however, Emily goes on to explain when she used to be on drugs on and off all the time, and how when her and Anthony had sex, she was high off of her mind, meaning that Anthony, well, you know.
My first stint of sobriety started in September 2012, but over the course of the next few years afterwards, I would be an on and off user. I would use Suboxone for a couple weeks to keep from going into withdrawal, and I would get up on my high horse and talk about how I was sober and how my life was so much better sober, and then a few days later, I would stop taking the Suboxone and go pick up. And so I wasn't really sober, but during the course of this time, there were tiny little glints of sobriety, but it obviously wasn't real sobriety. And now as I slowly piece this puzzle back together using messages and medical records and even some evidence from Shannon's own video, I realize now that I would have either been drunk and on heroin or drunk and on Suboxone, and either way, the side effects are intense. It's no wonder I had difficulty piecing this back together at first when I knew in my hardest of hearts, in my fucking core, that this happened. I was very clearly a total train wreck here. So many things were going on in my life, and although he denies ever being around me when I wasn't sober, these messages illustrate that that just isn't true. This man, by his own admission, was sober and sound of mind, and he chose to have sex with me while I was intoxicated and not in the right frame of mind. And Shannon can flap her gums all damn day and say that I'm changing my story, which is such an absurd notion, by the way, mostly because I have always asserted that I know the rape took place, but I do not remember the finer details of how it came to be. Because guess what? I was using drugs. I've said it before and I'll say it again. And similar opiates can cause you to forget pieces of information, but what it does not do is cause you to hallucinate and invent scenarios.
One of the next big things Emily goes over is that she understands that she said some fucked up stuff when she was younger, but that she has learned from this experience and saying a bunch of messed up things on the internet to become a better person.
Regardless of Shannon's fucked upness, I have to also sit here and acknowledge my fucked upness at some of the comments I had posted in my early 20s. Something that I just can't stand is when a creator is called out for something and in their apology they claim they were a different person back then. The things that I posted did not come from a different person. That was still me. I have done a lot of work to scrutinize and analyze my past actions and to try and grow and change from them. And the work isn't over. It will never be over. I'm okay being confronted with these truths because I need to see them and I need to be reminded of them to continue to make better choices, not only for myself, but for my children and the people who I surround myself with.
I'm pretty sure you guys can understand where she's coming from. Everybody here who's watching this video has said some pretty nasty stuff before in their life, whether they were a kid, whether they were a teenager or an adult. But you learn from saying those nasty things to never say them again, because it's fucked up. It's that simple. Now yes, sometimes people do make fucked up jokes, but you know, that's pushing the boundaries. That's what a joke is. But when people in this circumstance say it in an actual hateful way or a mean way to try to get somebody, just learn from your mistake and move on. That's called growing up. That is part of growing up and becoming a better person. And Emily acknowledges that, and I'm sure everybody can agree with her on that point. One of the next major things that Emily goes over is her storytime videos that she would make, and she gives very detailed insight on what was going on in her mindset while making those storytime videos, which is something that was worth talking about because Shannon liked to question every single storytime video as if it's hard evidence of Emily lying to everybody or something like that.
The storytime videos I made about certain relationships were mostly for entertainment, and although the stories were real, many identifying facts and information had to be changed or switched around between other story times, something that Shannon even points out in her video. I didn't want to ever fabricate stories, so instead I would take real details and rearrange them, sometimes between completely different situations. I did this for multiple reasons: to make certain stories have an actual resolution, because a good number of them didn't, for the protection of the people within the story, stories, or in the specific cases Shannon highlighted, the protection of myself. That being said, some of my past story times were actually about me. I would deliberately switch the roles around, change the details, and retell the story with me as the protagonist instead of the clumsy, embarrassing drug addict or drunk. This was not something I did on just that one video. What a coincidence. This was actually something I did a few times, which, like I said before, is something Shannon even pointed out. These videos are noticeably different from my other videos because, one, I am needlessly cruel to the, quote, antagonist of the video, and they are clearly painted out to be the bad guy. And two, the videos are a lot more detached from emotion, mocking even. I probably would have made more videos like that had I not been in therapy. I learned I did this as an unhealthy form of self-punishment, as I would often mock the, quote, antagonist in these stories. These stories, really these situations that I was in, have haunted my nightmares. I felt guilt, pain, shame, embarrassment, and intense anxiety over them. I felt like I was keeping a secret, like I needed to be shamed for what had happened to me. So I wrote them into a script. I unloaded them. I completely detached from them. I compartmentalized them. I put them into a box. Basically, I just pretended like they weren't mine. They didn't happen to me. As Shannon has highlighted, I used to be a chronic oversharer, which is oddly in stark contrast to who I am now. Maybe I have Shannon to thank for that. The stories were very much real at their core, but the roles were also very much reversed.
Emily's reasons for making the stories the way they were actually make sense. Think about it, she didn't like the way her old self was, but she wanted to tell a story that was interesting that her old self might have done. She's gonna reverse the roles and then needlessly pick at that person, in this case her old self, for the sake of either adding some drama to the story or over-exaggeration, because people love over-exaggeration when it comes to any sort of storytime type content. In Emily's case, it wasn't necessarily just for exaggeration, but also as a way of coping with her old self. She would think about the way her old self was, be like, wow, how stupid, and then needlessly pick at it, and when she realized in therapy that that was an unhealthy way of self-projection, she kind of started to get everything together and be like, this isn't good for me to do. Despite, I know that I was a bad person back then, making fun of myself for being bad isn't healthy. So the story times became less and less constant as she started to become a better person. One of the next things that Emily gets into is how CreepShow Art tried to paint her life together using just pictures on the internet, and then trying to say how one of the people that she was dating was forcing her to do cam work and all that. And she actually has an interview with one of the guys, not only when she was trying to find a stable place to live, but when she was fired from her job after they were sent the video of her in the bathtub, the anime review video.
You were also there when things were starting to perk up and I got that job at the optometry place, and then I was fired. You were there. You were the first person I called.
It was like, and I said this before, I swear to God, you couldn't get a break. A little bit of hope, you just a tiny bit. You got the job. We were so happy for you, and not 2 weeks later, you got fired. And I was overwhelmed with rage because I was like, what happened? What happened? Just, I didn't know. And you told me that your stalker, who you had told me that you had a stalker, like, I think before we'd met, but it was sort of unclear and it was sort of an on and off thing.
I had the stalker before we met, but I told you about it when we had met.
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't like you were hiding it. It was just something like, hey, there's a person you should be aware of. I don't know who it is. Someone contacted them saying they were a customer and sent them, from what I remember at the time, had sent them the video. It had nothing to do with the cameo. It was that video. And they said, okay, well, we don't really want to sift through this because I think you'd probably contended that it wasn't actually a customer, that it was your stalker, but they're like, well, we don't want any drama. So thank you. Goodbye.
Which is fair. I understand why.
Yeah, it was so disheartening for, I think, all of us, because we were excited about it.
You were rooting for me. I was doing well.
And then it was gone. It was just there, and then it was gone. It still to this day makes me so mad. And
after I was fired, then Bob and his mom let me move into their home. It was gradual at first. At some point between me slowly moving things from my van into Bob's home, my dad again reneged which I've discussed earlier in the video. I would have discussed earlier in the video. My dad reneged on kicking me out because I think at that point it was because I didn't have a job or something like that. Our relationship was constantly in flux. So, and again, like I had been homeless before I even met Bob. So it's not like there's this one time I was homeless for a week. Shannon even has a picture of me having like a pillow on Bob's bed, like proving that I had a pillow on his bed, like having a place to sleep that was safe. The point is that you witnessed me being fired. You were there for it. You were the first person I called. And then you were the first person to send out a lifeline and help me after that happened.
Your housing situation had sort of been in flux. You didn't really know where you're at. If he was one day going to decide you could live there, one day it wasn't going to be super certain.
But you have to realize that when you exist in that seedy underbelly and you're commingling with people who are criminals, some really unexpected wild things happen, some really traumatic things happen. And so it's hard to be pulled out of that. So I was very fortunate to have a consistent lifeline from Bob and his family that never gave up on me. And I do attribute, I know I did a lot of the work, but I think without that lifeline, I don't know where I'd be.
There's this one part of the video that is just super entertaining to watch. She goes over how one of the random sock puppet accounts basically try to say, oh, you were making up these views, you botted your sub count, view count, all that. And Emily is able to perfectly pinpoint who the person was who did that the entire time.
And to refresh your memory about what this accusation was, I made a tweet saying one of my videos was going viral because at the time 200,000 views was a ton of views. And then I went in and corrected it and said that I was going mini viral. And then Anthony, who I had blocked on a different platform, started following me solely to accuse me of buying views. He was blocked on a different platform, and he was obviously not following me on Twitter with his main account beforehand. So that led me to believe that he was monitoring my social media. So after he posted his 2 vitriolic tweets, I blocked him. And not moments later did I receive a message from a sock puppet account that was literally named @notviral_Emily, accusing me of the exact same fucking thing, even coming in clutch with some screenshots, which proved absolutely nothing. I had to use Twitter data in combination with old screenshots in order to piece back exactly what was said, because Anthony has since deleted his Twitter account. And when I confronted him, I said this: "My husband doesn't like me being in touch with my exes that I wasn't in touch with when we met, i.e. basically every one of them. That is why I keep blocking you. I know you're the one who has been harassing me all this time. Just please take care of yourself. This is not healthy. I'm not trying to be cold, I'm just being honest." And I don't know if he responded to that first message or I just decided to follow up about 30 minutes later because he wasn't responding, but I don't have a screenshot of a message in between the first and second message. And the message I do have a screenshot of seems like he is responding to both the first and second message here. The second message says, "I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd care because we didn't really talk anymore. I didn't realize you hold so much hostility towards me. I don't for you. What's so sad is I still played your music for people all the way up until I realized it was you. Like, even though we stopped talking, I still supported your music. I don't know why you're so angry at me and why you've tried to fuck up everything for me. I don't know why you just won't leave it alone." And then I follow up with, "We loved each other once, and I don't know why we can't just respect that love, be civil, and go our separate ways." And in response to that, he said this. Anthony responds, "Harassing? No, I've only posted in what my accounts are, like what has my face on it. And I'm not angry, I was just curious. I figured maybe if I get more ridiculous, I'd get a response. I wanted to see where your stuff went, which is why I was bummed you blocked me. But no, I'm not angry at all. Thank you for the reason, though. Much appreciated. Good luck out there." Why would he and Shannon bring up that he only posts things, no matter how nasty, through his personal accounts that have his face attached to them?
Because if he's going to say something, even something mean, it's going to have his name and his photo next to it.
When I made no mention of accounts or sock accounts or harassment or anything of the sort, why would he feel the need to defend himself against an accusation I never made? In fact, I didn't even bring up sock accounts until after he did.
Bro, y'all cannot tell me that isn't a straight dunk on Anthony and Shannon. Emily this whole time was pointing in the direction of them, and now that Shannon came out with their video, Emily was able to prove her point and basically solidify that it was definitely Anthony that made that account and was trying to harass Emily. All the evidence is pointing toward Anthony getting mad that he got blocked and then trying to harass her, saying she botted her views and all that. It's just great to see everything put together in a small little 3 to 4 minute clip. God, I love seeing it when a bunch of evidence just comes together and people get dunked on. It is so satisfying to watch, especially shitty people like Shannon, Anthony, everybody that harassed Emily. Another part of Emily's video is an interview with Bob again, this time him adamantly saying, yes, I did not force Emily into doing any sort of cam work, despite what Shannon was trying to say in her own 2-hour video that she made.
I want to come full circle and I want Bob to go ahead and I've already adamantly said that Bob did not at all in any way, shape, or form force me to do anything that I didn't want to do, ever.
It's hard to convey that, right? That I'm not going to force anyone to do something like that. I wanted you to be employed, but I didn't, and I knew it was a difficult time for money, but I can't, it does hurt me that is sort of the accusation, or that was the lens that it was seen through, at least by Shannon.
You did so much for her to accuse me of like claiming that you did that's what's so insulting and frustrating. What's even more insulting is she goes so far to be like, well, this couldn't be true because look, and then shows a picture of you holding my newborn, my 2-month-old baby. That doesn't prove anything. Obviously it didn't. I'm saying it. Bob is saying it. It's a disgusting and egregious accusation, but that's something we just want to clarify because you are an innocent, you're a victim in all of this.
You never accused me of that either. And
No.
I think, if you compile every word that someone says, I'm sure you can find a way to use it against them, especially when it's taken out of context. And that's what I think a lot of the information is. When you force a situation, when you've tried your best to fill in the holes, if you've been following someone adamantly for years but can't see the parts that you're not privy to, then you can write any conclusion that you want and somehow justify it.
The fact that Shannon came to this and many other conclusions just shows me that she knows absolutely nothing about how drug addiction and sex trafficking work. Just because I didn't post about every relapse and every criminal offense online does not negate their very existence.
Bob starts to get to a pretty interesting conclusion there in that clip. He's starting to say how if you weren't there when things were going on, while yes, giving certain pictures and certain text messages, you can try to come up with the conclusion on your own, that isn't the truth, it's only what you tell yourself to be the truth. And you can make that to be however you want it. If you like the person, you could say, oh, they were doing charity in their spare time. Or if you hate the person, you could say, oh, they're an awful person who went and kicked a bunch of puppies at the local vet or whatever. The main gist of it all is that, while yes, you can make together a story and piece together a narrative based off of pictures and text messages and whatnot, to ask the person what actually went down is a lot more important to get the context behind each of those pictures and text messages and whatever the hell you find on the internet. The next part is Emily summing up the Brita filter messages from that account that she got, and it makes a lot of sense why Emily was pretty sure that this is CreepShow Art just straight up lying to her the whole time.
In the conversation I had with Shannon in 2018, she claimed that the Brita account was a malicious stalker, even though Brita was supposed to be a throwaway account made by the stalker's sibling, which is another bizarre inconsistency. She also claimed that they had deleted their account, which we know not to be true. In order for what Shannon has said to be true, the 15-year-old stalker would have also had to have an account called Brita Filter. They would have had to message Shannon on that account, then delete their account. Then afterwards, the sibling would have stumbled across all the evidence of stalking, and then they would create a burner account, also naming it Brita Filter, and then they reached out to me, which doesn't make sense to me, because if I were the older sibling in this situation and I saw that my younger sibling was harassing someone by the name of Brita Filter, I wouldn't think to then name my burner account, the account that I'm going to use to reach out to this person, Brita Filter. I feel for like a lot of Shannon's story and her defense, you really have to suspend your disbelief for all of these inconsistencies inconsistencies and coincidences, and the things that do make a little bit of sense, she's being dishonest about.
I mean, it doesn't get any clearer than that. Y'all can see where Emily is coming from and why she believes that Shannon was lying to her the whole time. Now, the next part is Emily going into this time where Shannon left a review at Bob's workplace, and for some reason, Emily lost her shit. And it's really interesting to really think about in retrospect after Emily goes over it all. I'll just let the clips play for you guys here.
In Shannon's video, something bizarre that stuck out to me is this interaction Shannon had with Anthony about some review she left for Bob's place of work. Anthony completely and utterly fabricates the entire story all about how I had a tantrum that she even went into Bob's place of business. Shannon shows the conversation between her and Anthony and speaks as if that's enough evidence that the tantrum took place, which is another example of her taking what Anthony says as the gospel truth. Bob is actually the social media manager for the shop and always has been. And although he doesn't remember the review and he can't seem to find the original review, he can still confirm its authenticity and that Shannon actually physically went into the shop itself because she mentions a specific part-time employee of the shop by name. And this part-time employee was never featured on the company's website. And you never found the review Shannon claimed she left, right?
No, I assume it was because she said, she deleted her Facebook. I mean, she definitely went there. Like, I know she came to my place of work for sure because she gave the name of one of the employees who I don't think was even on the website.
I recommended Anthony specifically because Anthony wanted to capture the sound of a violin bow on a guitar. He thought that was a really interesting sound. And I had been suggesting, like, go to Bob's place of work. He works at this place. Because I was on good terms with Anthony at that point, I hadn't realized what had happened between us was not, my fault. I thought like a melding of the minds would be good because I was, dating Bob, who is an amazing, musician. And I felt that Anthony was also an amazing musician. I'd wanted them to meet on multiple occasions. And so I'd recommended on multiple occasions that Anthony go to your job to get this bow. Because the only way this could be true, they lived on the complete opposite side of the Bay Area, like complete opposite where Bob's job is. It was a very long drive. So it's not like, why would they go there for any other reason than I had recommended them? So it makes absolutely no sense that Shannon would leave this positive review and I'd throw this tantrum over her leaving a positive review when I had recommended that they go there. And you remember me talking about
it. Yeah, because, obviously it's like a shameless plug for the boyfriend. And I was like, oh yeah, I work at a violin shop. And you're like, oh my God, this is perfect. Made sense. And I remember you were enthusiastic and it was a ways for them to come though.
Because when Shannon was portraying that like she randomly went into this shop and left a good review, and I found out, how would I have found out about the review? And it was a positive review. Yeah. And why would I have this big meltdown over a positive review? Again, they could have gone to any number of other music shops in San Jose because they were just looking for a bow.
Very prominent music shops that are much closer to them.
It would make no sense that they would go there had it not been for my recommendation. Shannon doesn't go on to show any proof of this meltdown. She only shows the Facebook messages of her and Anthony talking about it. And that happens a few times where she uses Anthony's messages as proof of me doing something.
Bob himself is like, yeah, from what I remember, the review existed and she did go into the store, but there's no reason for Emily to get mad about a positive review on Bob's store page. This sounds to me like one of those bizarro scenarios where you're just trying to look for some reason to make somebody look bad. And I guess Anthony was like, oh, Emily's losing her shit. He probably saw some random tweet or whatever, and then just decided to roll with it, saying how Emily's losing her mind over a fucking review. I'm sorry, it's just so funny to me to think that Shannon just uses this as some sort of weird proof that Emily was getting mad. It's just funny to think that Emily was told that Shannon got mad over a review and tried to use that as some sort of character assassination on her. This next part of the video is an absolute banger of a part, man. I'm gonna just play it for you guys and we'll talk about it in a little bit.
And not only has she hurt her friends, but she's hurt fellow artists as well. Something that really bothers me is that in Shannon's unedited Google Doc, she goes on to accuse Skittles Juice, an artist that she had commissioned and never paid in full, of being a scam artist. She claims that she had sent Skittles $250 for the first payment of a commission, but implies that Skittles lied and said they did not receive the initial payment so that Shannon would send another payment and Skittles could then keep both payments. Skittles shows receipts that they actually did not receive the first payment when originally scheduled, and that Shannon not only acknowledged this, but also said she had sent the payment to another artist by accident. Shannon then sent over the $250. Skittles completed the commission, but then Shannon disappeared before Skittles could collect the second payment of $250, as the commission was priced at $500 total. It's laughable that Shannon is trying to call Skittles Juice, an incredibly talented and reputable artist, a scam artist, when she herself allegedly scammed one of her viewers out of $400. And to be fair, this is completely unrelated to any claims made against me specifically, but this person came to me with valid evidence, and I believe they have a right to be heard, especially after Shannon tried to call another artist a scam artist. This ex-fan, who I'm going to call M, had reached out to Shannon wanting to support her channel in some way. Shannon and M agreed that M would send Shannon $400, and Shannon would do a speed paint of M's character in one of her videos, as well as give M and their passion project a shout out. Shannon posted a video, but only gave M a shout out and did not fulfill the rest of the agreement.
The creator of this project is incredibly passionate about it and has put some of her own life savings, actually most of her life savings, into it. But I'm going to include links below so you can follow their Twitter for updates, see exclusive scenes first, and get a link to their Indiegogo campaign, which is trying to raise more funds so they can afford to put finishing touches on the movie and make it the best it can be. Like I said, the creator of this project poured her life savings into this, which amounts to over $15,000 of her own money going into this project.
M very gently reminded Shannon of the speed paint at a later date, but Shannon claimed she was not able to make a full speed paint at that point in time, but she would eventually make a dedicated art piece closer to the release date of M's passion project. She made sure to let M know that she would be doing it unpaid. And the unpaid part just rubs me completely the wrong way, because this is what Shannon owed M in the first place, but she was now regarding it more as an act of charity than the completion of a commission. Time went by and Shannon stopped responding to M. M even allegedly tried to donate additional money to Shannon during her live streams in order to try and get Shannon's attention. After that interaction on Discord, Shannon went on to unfollow M on Twitter, and M never received the rest of her commission.
Shannon was an artist who understands artist etiquette better than I do, better than most of us probably do. If you're gonna pay somebody, pay them either in full if you're expecting to get booted offline, or don't get the art at all, man. It's that simple. And then the fact at the end where she's like, oh, I will do this unpaid, even though she already owed them an art piece to begin with, bro. Like, this ain't making Shannon look any better, man. She got nothing to stand for, and she's still fucking up in other courses. And finally, at the end of Emily Artful's video, she gives Shannon an ultimatum. Either sue her or don't, because Emily is trying to move on, and if Shannon wants to live in the past, she can do that.
So Shannon, if you want to sue me, then sue me. If you want to spend months, possibly years, fighting it out in court, spending thousands of dollars that we, you, me, and our families don't have, then go ahead. Bury us in legal fees. Drag this drama on. Refuse to move on with your life. I don't care. I want to be done with this. I want to be done with you. I want to detach you from me like a barnacle from a ship. I've come forward. I've said what I need to say. That's all that matters to me now. All I know is that now you've put all of this out on the table, you have nothing left to hurt me with. I could be living in a shoebox, and I would find a way to be okay because of the people that love me. That is all that matters.
I'm not gonna lie, when I first got into this, I thought it was gonna be another long-winded 1.5 hour video on some petty drama. Nah, man, Emily killed it. It's over. This drama is completely done for after this video. There is nothing more that we need to know as an audience. There is nothing more that Shannon could even try to make Emily look bad. It's over, and this is a very satisfying conclusion. I recommend watching this video when you get the chance because it is actually a very well-made video. Now this is the part where I ask y'all's opinion. What do y'all think about the end of the CreepShow Art channel, saga, whatever you want to call it? Me, I am glad this is over. This has been in the making since she got outed, what was it, 7-8 months ago? It is finally over. Emily Artful buried her underground, and CreepShow Art said she ain't coming back to the internet, so now it's over. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to move on. Of course, if there's anything else that happens, I'm gonna be on top of that. But for now, it's over. Thank God it's over. Make sure to tell me your opinion in the comments below. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, with all of that out of the way, I will see you guys later.